Alright everyone, on September 29th there will be a presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and finally we've got tentatively the general topics that are going to be discussed. Now of course you don't get the specific questions unless you're Hillary Clinton getting them from MSNBC through Donna Brazile, and I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever behind the scenes. I have no doubt there is a 100% chance that part of Biden's debate prep will involve actual questions. He will receive the questions beforehand. Trump will presumably not. That's just the name of the game. The idea that this is going to be a fair debate is laughable. Has there ever been a single instance in the last, say 4 or 5 years where there's been fairness and parity between between Trump and anyone that he opposes as far as anything had to do with the legacy media, regardless of whether it's Fox or not? No, of course not. Why would I believe that it would begin now, especially at the 11th hour in the most important part of the fucking general election? There's not going to be any parity and equality and fairness in there. Here's what the basic subjects are. Number one will be coronavirus. That's predictable. Riots will be part of it, although I have a feeling that they're going to hammer Trump and say, well, you know, it's your fault, you're the president, basically. So there won't be fairness on that. Their records. That's going to be an interesting one because Joe Biden, by and large, hasn't discussed his record for the last year. As soon as he jumped in, he stopped talking about his record altogether. He'd say, well, I have a long distinguished record of serving the people in the United States Senate and as Vice President of the United States. But then he never talks about anything specific because it's all tough on crime bullshit, moderate milquetoast neoliberal bullshit. Nothing says whipping up the youth into a frenzy and getting all the far left votes like saying, oh yeah, by the way, I jailed hundreds of thousands of black dudes for simple drug possession. I was the arbiter, I was the actual architect of much of that legislation in the 80s and the 90s. Whoops. Yeah, that's going to go over real goddamn well. As far as coronavirus goes, that'll be kind of interesting too, because you got to understand, Trump, if he's smart, he's going to come out swinging in the first debate. He should attack Joe Biden on his suggestion that we need a 3-month total national lockdown. A 2-month total national lockdown brought us to the edge of a Great Depression. We've managed to reabsorb most of the job loss and stock loss and stuff. We've staved off the hemorrhaging that was going on. By and large, though, if we were to actually do what Joe Biden openly proposes, openly states he wants to do with executive action, number one, he'd violate the Constitution, and number two, he'd cause a Great Depression if successful. Trump can easily defeat him on that issue. Tell him, by the way, Joe, you trust China's facts and figures. Don't you think that's a little bit telling about your mental state? And that's the other thing to look for. One thing you will probably not hear much about at the debate is the cognitive awareness of the candidates. Don't expect that to be a major issue. If it is, you can expect the host to wryly smirk at Donald Trump when he calls himself a very intelligent genius, or a very stable genius or something, and then softball Biden and never follow through. And that's the other thing you'll see at the debates. What you'll see is this. They will be willing to throw a few hard balls to Biden to make it look a little bit more fair. They will not follow up in the same manner or with the same demeanor as they will for Donald Trump. There will be on the stream live fact-checking, presumably, and which, of course, will be heavily tilted towards disfavorable coverage of what Trump is saying, to the point of real logical stretching, largely favorable coverage of Biden, and lies by omission where they simply won't fact-check some of the lies he tells. That's what'll happen. They'll probably do what that one journalist did, actually asking Biden about Burisma and Hunter Biden and stuff. We've got big revelations there that will, by the way, go nowhere, so I'm not even going to bother reporting on them. That he took like $3.5 million from the ex-wife of the mayor of Moscow. The conflict of, while Joe is VP, the conflict of interest involved there should be an international scandal. Instead, you haven't heard anything from the legacy media. You've heard a few selective clips from that disaster of an interview segment where Joe Biden completely fumbled and basically non-answered the question. I wonder goddamn fucking why. You'll see that brought up, and you'll see it swept aside and dismissed. You can also expect Biden, at least in the first debate, despite all of the lid days he's taking at the moment, he will probably be reasonably refreshed, and if he's going to make a major mistake, I don't think it'll be at the first debate. I think it'll be at the second or third debate. Trump will still be finding his footing. He has a tougher schedule to deal with. Trump is still, after all, in his mid-70s as well. You can expect Trump to not come out swinging maybe as hard as you want him to. I'll be surprised if he comes out like a rape tape. I think it'd be good. I think it's possible if he takes a day or two off beforehand for some significant prep and extra sleep. I just don't think that's Trump's character. He's going to go in dry, probably, with no debate prep at all, or very little. Biden is carefully grooming the whole situation, and he has the advantage of probably knowing most of the questions beforehand. Do you really think that the corporate media, that almost to a man, to the last man, supports Biden, do you think they're actually going to hardball him, knowing he's got dementia, and not give him prep beforehand? Of course they will. There's not going to be any fairness in the debate. Despite that, I think Trump will still win. I think that it's going to be a glaring difference between Trump, who will gladly discuss things that he's done, who will gladly discuss things he wants to do, and Biden, who may very well spend much of the time simply talking about how his opponent is evil. Well, we've already gotten that from the whole Democratic Party and corporate media apparatus for 3 years now running. It hasn't really done well. Trump's approval is now rising above 45. He could be at 46 during the first debate. My goodness, what a wash of an election to be then. By the way, it's really funny. I'm supposed to believe that Biden is up by like 5 points in a state like Ohio, while Trump is actually rising in support. I'm not, while Biden's not even actively campaigning or having anyone knock on doors, I smell shenanigans with some of the polls that I'm seeing. I am having a really, really difficult time believing that they're real. A really difficult time. I don't know whether it's a wanton sampling bias or deliberate poll rigging. I don't know exactly what the full explanation is in some of these cases, but I smell a rat. I think that the battleground state polls are being deliberately cooked to drag the aggregate in order to try to demoralize Republicans. I think, by the way, it'll actually have a backlash and it'll make them more likely to vote. I think Biden will know the questions largely beforehand. It won't be a fair debate. It won't matter. And by the way, to Trump fans out there, if you're expecting any fairness in this election, all you have to do is look at the legacy media's coverage. Look at the front page of CNN sometime and ask yourself if there's any lack of bias within the corporate media complex. It's funny because all these billionaires, like warmongering intel agents, the Bush dynasty, the Boltons and Cheneys of the world, corporate billionaires, censorious Silicon Valley oligarchs, foreign conglomerates, all these people back Joe Biden. Somehow he's still considered by jaded leftists to be the progressive candidate, the lesser of two evils. You got your head screwed on backwards, dude. I see through it. I was conned into voting for Obama back in 2008. It doesn't take a genius to see what the fuck is happening here. And if you expected even the possibility of a fair debate, just let it go. What the moderator will probably do is try to bait Donald Trump by being deliberately obtuse and nasty. Will probably try to debate him into attacking the moderator, so that he can shake his head and say, well, Mr. Trump, that's not nice, and how dare you suggest you're attacking the press. They'll probably try to do it. They're going to try to bait Trump. Trump would be wise to sidestep and just antagonize Biden relentlessly. Talk about Hunter Biden. Plenty. Get him off topic. Completely ignore what you're asked, because Biden sure will. He'll spend 2 minutes non-answering every fucking question anyway. You can also expect them to talk over each other the whole fucking time. That's about all. Peace out.